Okay everybody, this is Fritz from jagmte.com with the promised video on how to build the PVC spout cases that I have advertised on eBay and on the website jagmte.com. This is for the high flow and this is for the 3/4 or 19 millimeter. Okay, tools you're going to need: tape measure, drill bits, full index if possible, drill, wire brush, either on a tool or a hand wire brush is fine, a utility knife with a new blade in it, if you have one, a box cutter or just a straight razor blade. You can probably use it with your fingers, a deburring tool or a file that can be used for deburring, Sharpie marker, pencil, 150 grit, 100 grit, sandpaper, doesn't really matter, just something you can sand with, and a way to cut a bolt. In this case I'm going to use this, but you could use a Dremel with a little cutoff wheel or whatever. Okay, parts list for the case for the 3/4 inch or 19 millimeter spout, the one with the clear tube. You need, we'll start with the small end, a 1-inch slip cap, schedule 40, a 18 1/4 inch piece of schedule 40 PVC pipe, a 1-inch to 2-inch slip reducer bushing, and on this bushing you don't really want the funnel type. There are two types. There's one that's solid inside and shaped like a funnel, and then this one that just steps down and has the gussets to give it structural integrity. This is the one you want. You don't really want the funnel type. We got that, excuse me, which goes there. Then you're going to need a 2-inch to 4-inch schedule 40 slip bushing. This side is slip 2-inch, this side is slip 4-inch. And then the cap that I use is not a schedule 40 part. You'll find this in the storm drain area with the rest of the pieces and parts that you can use for outdoor drainage. This is a schedule 20 piece, and unlike the schedule 40 where they measure inside diameters for the sizes, on the schedule 20 storm drain they measure outside diameter for the sizes. So this 4-inch schedule 20 cap happens to slide down inside this 4-inch slip piece because of the difference in measurements. So that's your parts list. This cap from schedule 20 from the storm drain section, 4-inch to 2-inch adapter, 2-inch to 1-inch adapter, not the funnel type, the step down type, 18 1/4 inch long piece of pipe, and a 1-inch cap. This cap happens to be flat. It's made by Vesco. And this cap happens to be round. It's made by Lasco. Whatever you get, you get. Doesn't really make much difference in how it goes together. Excuse me. The parts list for the high flow nozzle is once again the same cap, the same 4 to 2 slip, a 17 1/4 inch long piece of 2-inch PVC, which will go into there, get that later, and a 2-inch slip cap for the end of it. And both of those are going to need 6-inch carriage bolts. If you're going to a box store, they're going to go from 5 to 6-inch. 5 1/4 is what you need. If you go to a specialty store, you might be able to get a 5 1/4, but it's unlikely. So you're just going to buy a 6-inch, and we're going to cut a little bit off of it. This is a 1/4 inch diameter, 20 thread count. So it's a 1/4 20 and then you'll get a 1/4 20 wing nut to go on the end of it, and that goes on both spout cases. Okay, let's see. Oh, you'll probably need some PVC glue also. You can use a medium duty. I like the medium duty clear, because this is not a pressurized assembly, so it's not going to come apart. So, first thing we'll do, and I only glue the inside of the fittings. And I'll tell you why I do that. Not a ton of glue, just enough. And I glue the inside of the fittings so I don't get a big bead of glue along this edge. It's unnecessary, and in this case it's ugly. You would glue both sides if this is a plumbing fitting, but it's not. So I just glue the inside so I don't have to look at the ugly glue there. So you've got your cap glued on to the 1-inch pipe. And now you'll take your 2-inch to 1-inch adapter. A little bit of glue on the inside of that. Shove those together. Now I like to take the extra glue that gets squeegeed down to the inside of this cap and just wipe it off of there. Wipe it out of the little groove in there. That's just me. When you look on these fittings, you'll see some edges that are formed, sharp little edges that are formed during the molding. You want to take your sandpaper and get rid of those. Anything that's sticking up or out from the fitting on the edges. You'll find that on the plumbing caps also. You want to make sure that they don't have any little burrs or edges on them. You'll go around them like so and knock anything off that's sticking up, or sticking out rather. We'll go ahead and do that on both of those pieces. Then we'll take a look at our 4-to-2 reducer bushing. Do the same thing, just to clean it up a little bit if it has any edges on it. No reason for it to stick you when you go to grab it. Okay. Next thing you'll want to do, during the molding process there seems to be a pretty heavy edge that forms inside here. It's normally partially detached. And take your file or your deburring tool and cut that off just to clean up the fitting. And this one you can see, maybe you can see the little pieces sticking off. You don't want any of that stuff to end up inside the case and inside your spout and stuff. So take your file or your deburring tool and just knock that stuff off so it's not in there. Alright, now we will glue inside the 2-inch portion and slide that in. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and build the larger one also. So we'll glue inside the cap, put the cap on, and we'll glue inside the 2-inch portion of the 2-to-4 bushing. Glue that in there. You can see we're coming along nicely. Okay, now the fun part. I need to get a couple nozzles. Hang on just a second. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Now, when you put the nozzle down inside, you're gonna, by the way, for those of you who get to the hardware store and look at this 2-to-4 bushing or look at a threaded version, you can't do it with a threaded cap. This won't fit inside. It hits the threads and stops right there. So can't do it with a threaded one, which is why I've done it this way. When you... I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. First need to go get some of your wife's nice craft paper. Hopefully that won't make her mad. Or some construction paper or something. And you need to cut a circle the exact size as the outside diameter of the tube in the construction paper. This is going to end up being a measurement tool, so you're not way off on the holes that you have to drill. So you have your circle, fold it in half. And that'll give you half your circumference on here, which will help you center your holes. When that's lined up, take a pencil, mark those two locations, because that's where you want to center your drill bit on the side. The hole that you're going to drill is going to be 5/16 of an inch. Alrighty. 5/16 of an inch is the center of your hole. Down from that edge. So you have enough material to retain the bolt, but you're not down so low that you hit the spout inside with the bolt. So go to the other side. Perhaps not the ideal tape measure for this. 5/16. Find your mark there. Make your T. That indicates the center of your hole. To start the process, you are going to drill. Your first hole is going to be a 1/4 inch hole. Doesn't really matter which side you do it on. Deburring tool is handy for getting the little plastic burrs that occur when you drill this stuff too. Hope everybody can hear me okay. Alright, so we have 1/4 inch hole on this side. This is going to be the carriage side of the bolt, so you can go ahead and mark that with a C if you want for now, so you remember. And you're going to come to the other side and you're going to drill a 17/64 inch hole in the other side. Try to make it point directly at the other hole you drilled, so the bolt will line up. Okay, so now you've got a 17/64 inch hole drilled on the other side, which is going to be the wing nut side. Now, with the spout inside and the cap slid down over it, the edge of the cap actually hits the tips of the spout tab, the stars, and holds the spout down on the bottom of the case. So when you're all done, the spout does not shake around inside the case. As you can see, the cap does not go all the way down inside. There's probably a 1/4 of an inch or so that it stands up. When it hits the spout tips, it holds it out about a 1/4 of an inch. So this is the fun part. Since you have a 17/64 inch hole on this side, so what we'll do is what do we do? I typically do this. It's hard to show you, but I can look and try to hold the whole thing vertically so the same amount of material is sticking out all the way around, and mark the carriage side, the 1/4 inch hole you've drilled, transfer it to the cap. Now you're going to drill a 17/64 inch hole in the cap, which is why you don't want to drill through the carriage one to complete this hole, because then you will make the carriage one bigger, and you don't want to do that. Okay, now put that in, back lining up with what will be the carriage bolt side of the unit, and then slide the carriage bolt in just to hold those two pieces relatively close together, and then go back and level it out once again, so you have basically the same amount of material sticking out all the way around, or the same size gap all the way around. And since the hole on this side is a 17/64, you can just drill through it and through the cap. If you drill straight, you won't hit your spout, because remember, your spout is being held down inside this fitting by the cap, so you're not going to hit the spout with the drill bit. So now you have your two holes. Clean out this one. Okay. I think I forgot to mention one of the tools you'll need is a torch. Be real careful using your torch around your glue. Make sure you've closed your glue and don't burn down your shed. Also, a wet rag in a little container is handy, because you're going to need to cool off the bolt twice during this process. So find the side of the unit that you marked with a C, which I've almost wiped away, but there it is. And that's where the carriage bolt is going to go. The carriage bolt side is going to go. So slide it in the hole, back it out an 1.5 inches or so, so the heat from your torch does not hit the plastic. Heat up the head of the carriage bolt, not a ton, you don't want to overheat it, but you got to get it hot enough that it'll melt in, which it did. So we push down, you can see that the square portion, or the carriage portion, has melted into the pipe. So now that you've done that, you can pull that back out, take your water, cool that off because it's still hot. If there's any PVC material left on it, brush it off so it's clean. Now let's go back and look at our hole. If you like, you can attempt to trim off anything that might have stood up when you did that, because you're displacing material when you melt it. And there you go. You got the square hole doesn't go all the way through because the carriage part isn't long enough to go all the way through. But basically, you got a square hole, and when that dries, it'll be plenty stiff to hold the bolt in place. Now we've got to cut this because, as you can see, you may have to mess around with that to hold it. You just melt it a little bit. If it happened to have displaced any material into the thread area, you'll have to just knock that out, like I just did. You don't need all this bolt. So you can mark it if you want, or just eyeball it. And take a Sharpie marker, we know we want. Mark some of the threads, and then we know we want all those threads gone. So what we'll do is put our wing nut on so we can chase the threads after we cut them. Always wear your safety glasses while you're doing all this, okay? Always safety first. Okay, after you've cut it off, you want to make sure that you didn't leave any razor sharp threads there to cut yourself on. Now, before we cool it off, we want to chase the threads in case any of them have to be bent back out, which they don't. Nice and clean. Get our water, and we'll cool that off, and we'll dry it off. We take our case, we put our spout in the case. These you may find, if you didn't get the holes across from each other absolutely perfectly centered, you're going to have to mark the cap. It is a little tricky to get them absolutely perfectly centered. So if you put that in and you find out that you have trouble lining the bolt up on this side, it means you probably, like I do right now, I can get it through, but it's not perfect. So the cap is probably backwards from how I drilled it originally. So let's turn it around and see if that makes it any better. Nope, that actually made it worse. Okay, so I had it correct, but there is a difference because the other way I wasn't able to get it through. So on this one, all right, that does line up pretty well. So you start that through, line up your carriage square with the square you melted in the material, push it in. Put your wing nut on, and there is your spout enclosed in a very durable case. Because of the holes in the cap not lining up and it now being directional, you're going to have to mark this side of the cap. I was stamping a small W into them for wing nut. You can scratch it in, you can stamp it in, you can just write it with a marker. W on that side of the cap for wing nut, or C on this side of the cap for carriage, to make sure you orient it correctly when you put it in. I think that pretty much covers the process for building the cap, or putting the cap on the high flow unit is exactly the same. So you're just copying what I did on the other one, and that's pretty much that. Let's check one more thing real quick just to show you. I don't know if you can see the space between the spout and the bolt. That's why you don't want to go down any further than 5/16. When you're drilling your hole through at 5/16, you only have about an 1/8 before you hit your spout. So you want to make sure that you're very careful when you do that measurement down, and do it 5/16 or maybe a little less than 5/16 if you want to, or a little less, sorry. I think there's cameras everywhere. When you drill these holes, no more than 5/16. And if you're nervous about coming close to your spout, then go a little less than 5/16, 4/16, a quarter. You know, do it at a quarter instead of 5/16. You just want to leave enough material there that it'll hold it in place. And as long as you're careful, it will not, the drill bit will not hit your spout. I hope that I pretty much covered everything that is necessary in the construction of this wondrous device, and that you're able to do it successfully, and or that you're so intimidated that you just buy mine, because that's useful for me too. But if not, go ahead and build your own, and good luck and enjoy.